Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Triumph Review. Now, today was supposed to be the Lifetime Triumph one, but there is a Triumph in there that I am basically waiting on to either complete or see if it is still glitched before I review that section. That is the Clan Up Triumph. I do need to gather some people to test this one, but I know in the past it's been bugged and unobtainable and whatever, so once I get that done or see if it's truly bugged, Lifetime will probably be the next section to look at. But today we are actually going to do our first episode on Legacy Triumphs, and specifically Leviathan. So we're going to be looking at Leviathan, Crown of Sorrow, Managerie, the Tribute Hall, and the Shadow title. Starting off with Leviathan, this is encompassing the Leviathan raid, prestige mode, and then both Eater and Spire and their prestige modes. Now you will notice I do not have all of these done. That's going to be the case with a lot of these Legacy Triumph areas where either at the time I was only Triumph chasing to get titles, or I just was taking a break from the game, or wasn't Triumph chasing at all and whatnot. The case for this is just that I did not care about anything but the Shadow title, and the rest I just kind of happened to get by playing the game. So I have done Leviathan, and I have done Prestige, and I've done Eater, and I've done Spire, but I have not done the Prestige modes. Now, my friends and I have talked about this for a long time, but it would be really cool if Bungie brought back Leviathan, Eater, Spire, and Crown kind of all mixed together as a raid. Maybe with some sort of rotator that has different like encounters for the week, or maybe it's random, or maybe it's a mega raid and you do all of them or something. I don't really know. But I will say that I think Leviathan had more potential than it was given credit for. You know, if they brought it back, certainly there would probably be a raid title with it. Leviathan has no raid title, it has no challenges, nothing like that. But I think they could really get creative and, yeah, just kind of mix it up. And I think, in my opinion, you know, we've outgrown Leviathan so much that Prestige mode should probably just be the base version. Not even in terms of difficulty, like in terms of power scaling, but in terms of mechanics. Like the Prestige mechanics should be the baseline if they were to bring it back, in my opinion. And then as far as master and challenges, they just have to get creative. But overall, Leviathan wasn't too terrible of a raid. Eater of Worlds was a strike, and Spire of Stars could give some teams some trouble just because the last two encounters are mechanically kind of difficult. But in my opinion, Spire is a little bit underrated. I love the mechanics for this raid. I love how complex it is. And I think if they were to make it a full-fledged raid, you know, maybe combine Eater and Spire, you know, you've got yourself a raid there pretty much. Now, if I were to ask for one raid to be reprised and to come back, it would be Crown of Sorrow. Wrath of the Machine enjoyers can cope harder. Obviously, I do not have all of these done. I only pretty much have the ones required for the Shadow title. So I've completed the raid. I've done it flawless, looting the chest at the top of the pinnacle 5 times, completing it without anyone getting the Witch's Curse debuff, which is basically just when the buff, like the gimmick buff of this raid, when it runs out, you get this debuff, and if you have that for like a few seconds, you'll die. And then I have done the 3 challenges. Now, if I remember correctly, this flawless was not very difficult. I think we got it second try. I don't think there was a whole lot to really be cautious of with this raid. Maybe like the jumping section or something, or just keeping an eye on your timer. Galron's Deception sometimes could get a little bit unpredictable, but really not too hard of a raid, I would say. In terms of the challenges, I have reviewed what they are. The Limited Blessings challenge is super easy. You just have 2 people getting buff at a time in the first encounter, instead of how teams usually did it, which I think was 3. Total victory is defeating Galron's Deception, where you stun him 5 times in one phase. So basically, one phasing Galron's Deception. This just requires some coordination with your team, some communication, because you have to have one unbuffed and one buffed person smacking him at the same time in order to stun him, essentially. So yeah, a little bit of coordination there, but not too terrible. Probably the hardest challenge in the raid, though, as with both hands is very easy. Basically, when you were fighting Galron, he raised his hands. That was like his wipe mechanic. And so to not get wiped, you had to shoot his hands down. This just basically means one person per hand for this challenge. And Galron his damage phase was kind of like Callie, where he would go to like 3 different areas. So 6 hands, 1 player per hand. Not too bad. Moving on to Managerie, one of the most beloved activities in Destiny history. People really liked Managerie. I really liked Managerie, although I will say I think there was a Triumph where I had to do a ton of runs of it, and I did get a little bit sick of it after a while. But overall, very fun. I don't think people would be upset if they brought this back. People also really enjoyed the Chalice stuff, where you could pick what kind of loot you got. Very revolutionary, very ahead of its time. You know, these days we have so much like loot focusing and whatnot, we forget how random drops really used to be. This was just revolutionary for the time. So we have the basics, just unlocking the Chalice. These are the 3 bosses for Managerie, so just doing these. If I remember correctly, they were either on a weekly rotation or it was just random. I know they were on a weekly rotation for the harder version of Managerie. This is the one I think I was talking about, where it's like complete 50 encounters within Managerie or something. I did get a little bit sick of Managerie after grinding this out, but overall, you know, it's a fun activity. It's not terrible. Then we have Warner 9940's weekly bounties. He just had a ton of these that you go through, and there's a triumph for completing all of them. If I remember correctly, they were pretty simple stuff. You just run Managerie. There's certain stuff you had to do in there. Yeah, not too difficult. And then each of the Managerie encounters have a little challenge. You know, completing it with time left on the clock is pretty easy. This one, I did not coordinate with people to get. This I just got in some random queue that I went into. Because I didn't play a lot with people at the time, or if I did, it was mostly just raiding, not really doing like Managerie. And then we have another little challenge here for the Mockery, you know. It's interesting, you know, half of these are kind of like completing it with time left on the clock, and then some of them are like their own little specific challenges. You know me, I love the specific challenges, but you know, some of these were quite difficult for the time to do without running out of time. So yeah, I'm okay with these. These are pretty cool. Complete a run through the Managerie and a complete set of opulent gear is pretty much free. You just grind for it, focus it in your Chalice, you'll get the opulent gear, and then just completing a run through the Managerie, and that, you know, this is a free one, as well as earning the rocket launcher Truth, you know, just stuff you would have done at the time. This one probably required coordination. I'd be surprised if people got this done in just like some random Managerie run. I know I certainly didn't in all my runs of Managerie. Even though I tried, you know, I would just dunk one lamp and then cross my fingers and hope that some other people would do it. But yeah, I would say most of these, you know, if you got a team together back in the day and you just did a couple runs of Managerie, you could get all these done pretty easily. So then we have this one, which is just slotting runes. This is pretty much just do Managerie. And then this one is very interesting to me. This reminds me of just solo dungeon triumphs. It's one of those rare times where Bungie is giving you a triumph to do an activity with less players than the recommended, right? Heroic Managerie recommended 6 players, but this is a triumph to do it with 3 or fewer. You don't really see that anywhere else except for solo dungeons, really. Or maybe like exotic missions. There's no triumph to go 4-man Salvation's Edge or anything like that, or to go trio Last Wish and whatnot. So this is just kind of an interesting standout to me. Obviously, I never did it. I wasn't good enough back in the day to go do Heroic Managerie with 2 other people, or 1 person, or even solo. But I did do at least 1 Heroic Managerie, because I do have this triumph here. And actually, it had to have been more than that, because I have defeated each boss in Heroic Managerie. And then we have little boss challenges here for each of the 3 bosses. And I mean, you know how I feel about those. So overall, I think the Managerie triumphs are all pretty much big wins. This is a great category, or was back in the day. Yeah, overall, a good selection here. I think maybe minus the Warner 9940 bounties, these are just kind of whatever. But hey, free triumph score is free triumph score, so there you go. Then we have Tribute Hall. This is very interesting. Part of it is just like collecting the tributes and offering them up. But then we also have a ton of these challenges where you have to do different things using only, if I remember correctly, Callus-themed armor and weapons from Managerie or Leviathan. And obviously, I did not do a lot of these. I have, yeah, the Crucible one and the Leviathan one, and really that's about it. Oh, and then the Strike one of as well. So pretty much mostly just the couple solo ones. I didn't really do Nightfalls back in the day, so I didn't get the Nightfall ones. There's one for Gambit, which I didn't do. Yeah, a couple Gambit ones here. 3 Gambit ones. They were really pushing Gambit back in the day. So I really did not do a whole lot of these. I kind of wish I did, though. These are like some fun challenges. They're very unique, which is very cool. So I really liked the idea of pretty much all the Leviathan triumphs. You know, these are very cool. And then we have one that gives you extra triumph score for completing triumphs and one for completing any badge within your collections. There's actually another triumph just like this in the lifetime triumph section, so this is a little bit funny to me. It's kind of a duplicate, but here it is anyways. And then this is the Bad Juju mission. So there was a triumph to complete it solo flawless, which I never did. But the Bad Juju mission, it was pretty fun, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, though, it was lacking maybe some combat or some ad density. But not too bad of a mission. It's not something I would ever see them bringing back, nor would I probably want them to. I know some people miss the Tribute Hall because it was great for weapons testing. So yeah, you know, it was a cool space. I really don't think it's something we need back, though. There's so many like different options for damage testing these days. You know, people can just grab Templar checkpoints, or there's that one Cabal in the Lost Sector, and we also have the like floating discs in the Enclave. So it's not really something we need back, in my opinion. Finally, let's talk about the Shadow title, one of the most highly regarded titles in Destiny history, and for good reason, in my opinion. Shadow as a title just sounds sick as hell, and it was kind of difficult to get at the time. It is one of the rarest titles in the game, and I am very happy that I do have it, even if I prefer to run Reckoner over Shadow. But overall, I think that there is a pretty good selection of triumphs here. You'll see there's quite a bit more than you would typically expect for a title. You know, back in the day, I think titles were a little bit harder to get. But obviously we have the Crown of Sorrow challenges. This one included looting the chest 5 times. And this one does require a flawless raid, which is one of the main contributing factors to its difficulty to get. You know my thoughts on this. I really wish that flawless raid stuck around as a requirement for raid titles. And this isn't even really a raid title. It's like half raid, half seasonal title, which is interesting. It's pretty unique with that. And Blacksmith is the only other really similar title to that, and we'll go over Blacksmith one day. But Reckoner isn't like that. These two are pretty much unique in that aspect. And then also we have the heroic Menagerie bosses. You have to fight them and not have anyone die during them, so that can be kind of a challenge. Other than that, it's pretty much just grinding out Menagerie. You know, slotting crystals, completing encounters with time on the clocks, doing the little challenges and whatnot. So overall, definitely a very good title. You know, just to give my thoughts generally, I miss the Leviathan area. I was very happy when they brought it back for Season of the Haunted. I think that they should bring back Leviathan in some way, shape, or form, but I wish they would bring back Crown of Sorrow. Overall, just Leviathan, the whole idea of the Leviathan and Callus, I think, was a big hit. You know, maybe not so fully realized in Lightfall because the story was kind of bad, but I did like Callus as a character. I liked the idea of his philosophy of pretty much just saying, you know, fuck it, everything's gonna die, so I'm gonna enjoy life, and then he goes kind of crazy and decides he's gonna be the last thing alive, kind of similar to the Vex, but more, I guess, human, you know, because they're very logical machines, but Callus is a fully realized character. His lore is cool. So yeah, overall, just very sick. And yeah, I don't have a whole lot much left to say, so thank you for listening to my opinions, and I will see you later. Goodbye.